was playing around on Borderlands and I kind of noticed that I had never really tried using the face puncher before. So this build might kind of be like someone might already have one that's similar, but I just kind of figured I'd make this and kind of put it out there because maybe it is more unique than it probably isn't. I don't know. We'll see. But it's not really done yet necessarily, but just the concept I kind of came up with about like 30 minutes ago, and I ended up having some gear that kind of worked so far. So the main idea of this build is just to use the face puncher, right, and put basically as much extra crap onto that as possible. I'll do a little bit of mobbing and then I'll kind of go over some of the more in-depth things about it. Oh, come on. So you can see those stickies right there doing some good work. They're actually pretty good at just finishing off enemies, as you can see. So yeah, you can see right there, it just completely one-shotted that guy. This guy will one-shot after the stickies. So far, I tried it versus Tron, and it actually did not do super good. Like, it did fine, but it wasn't anything, you know, ridiculous. It's been pretty good. Yeah, see again, it's just, I mean, at this point it's one-shotting most things. Even, and this is without the Sentinel Cryo even active, too. So, like, even if I just leave it, like, without the Sentinel Cryo even on here, it's basically, it's one-shotting everything, so. I'm really liking this. It's kind of been nice. This is quite different than how Zane is really normally played, I feel like, as far as like what type of guns he uses. It honestly feels kind of like a hybrid between a lot of different like ways of playing Borderlands 3, because there's a lot of explosives involved in this actually. With those stickies, like, you end up getting a lot of novas and different things set off, especially since the drone is actually putting out radiation effects, so that definitely adds quite a bit, because when you kill someone who has the radiation, it explodes into a radiation nova, and that actually helps your damage output quite a bit too. So I actually haven't taken these over here yet, so I guess we'll kind of find out. I'm assuming it'll one-shot this, yeah. This thing, like, can basically be used, like, I mean this. Wow, that did some pretty good work. So the important skills that you really need to keep track of are actually pretty simple, because it's pretty similar to what most Zane builds are. So obviously Violent Speed, Violent Momentum are keystones of Zane. I don't think there's a single build where you don't get at least one of these, if not both. Drone delivery is kind of important, just to kind of get your grenades out there. For my build so far, I have the on-grenade thrown, and it gives you a little bit of bonus. But I am going to be changing that out as soon as I get a better anoint. So, like, that's kind of up to you. If you have a good grenade or, you know, whatever, then you can get that. I would suggest actually getting hex grenades, because they can proc crits, which do all sorts of things for you, including, I believe it actually will freeze enemies via brain freeze. Obviously, death follows close. Again, kind of self-explanatory. It just boosts your kill skills. The Cool Hand, it helps you reload, which is good because it keeps your DPS steady. With the Face Puncher, it actually doesn't feel like a super long reload when you have at least a couple points into Cool Hand. Salvation, 1 to 2, I mean maybe 3 points into this and you're good. Like, you don't really need that many points into this. I just put 2 points into playing dirty. I generally kind of like to get it up to the 45% chance, because then you get it pretty consistently at that point with Seeing Dead. A lot of people go lower, actually, and I mean that works too. It's really up to you. You can use that extra point other places. Violent Violence, I would say this is a pretty important one because this will increase your DPS a lot for any sort of like kind of chunkier enemy. Because the Face Puncher doesn't have like extremely fast rate of fire. It's pretty slow, but once you have this, it actually boosts it up to a pretty manageable rate. It feels a lot better. I have 2 points into Good Misfortune. I like having that little bit more percentage for the max duration because I actually kind of struggle to proc it sometimes because I'm not shooting a lot of bullets constantly. Like, I mean, you can proc it quite a bit with this gun, but you're not necessarily, using like a light show or something that just procs everything really easily. But that's just my opinion. Again, like you really only need 1 point into this. So then onto the orange tree. A lot of people don't really use synchronicity. I like to have it, even though it's not like a huge buff. It's at least something. And I kind of ran out of places to spend skill points near the end. So if you wanted, it actually might be good. You can take, I think it's all 3 of these points, and you can bring it over. You can put it into like duct tape mod or something like that. But it's really up to you with synchronicity whether you use it or not. This, obviously, it just gives you a little bit better magazine size. That's always nice, especially with the Face Puncher. It doesn't have a huge magazine either. Borrowed Time, again, just nice to have. It adds action skill duration, which is pretty nice. Donnybrook is pretty important, at least in my opinion. It gives you some health regeneration, and then also it gives you a good amount of gun damage, which, again, Zane already has a lot of, but every little bit of damage does help. Duct tape mod, I use this again because it should proc on grenade thrown, and it gives you just a little bit of a boost. It's up to you. I don't see why you wouldn't put at least 1 or 2 points into this. I like putting 2 for most of my builds. I just put 2 points into it. Pocket full of grenades, you just get that. It gives you your grenades back. It's just 1 point. I don't really see a problem with putting a point there. Supersonic Man gives you a boost to your movement speed. It actually gives you, once you have both your action skills up, gives you like a 24%, I believe. Yeah, 24% movement speed buff. So that's pretty nice to have. And so that's it for that tree. So then you go over to the green tree. This one is probably the least important in my opinion, but it's still good to spend some points in certain places. I like to split mine between Adrenaline and Ready for Action, but a lot of people will just do one or the other, especially a lot of people I see just go all in Ready for Action. But it's up to you. This just gives you a little bit of extra cooldown rate. I usually don't actually use this a whole lot, other than since this is a drone build, which I don't normally do, it feels a little bit longer to get your drone back. So I put a couple points into that, and then I went fully into Brain Freeze because it's honestly a very good skill just to be able to slow your enemies on crits, which, I mean, for this build, without the Hex Grenades, it doesn't really happen too much because you're honestly killing people pretty quickly. But for bosses, or not for bosses, but for like chunkier enemies, it's pretty nice. And it also just gets you down to Confident Competence, which is just a good gun damage buff. Again, it's gun damage, but it's nice to have. And a lot of people don't talk about it, but it does up your accuracy, which isn't the hugest deal, but it is kind of nice still. As far as augments go, I just like going nanites, and then I go all-rounder. And then for the drone, I go Winter's Drone, and I go Bad Dose. These, again, kind of everything is up to you. I would say Bad Dose is probably the most important for the drone, and then the second one is kind of up to you. And then again with the barrier, like all-arounder is one you should definitely get, and then between the charged relay and the nanites, it's kind of up to you. It doesn't really matter. And then if you really want, you could probably just run a drone, or I mean a digiclone instead of the drone. But since I have 100% damages cryo on Sentinel active, I like using Sentinel for this. If I had one that was a on action skill end, then I would probably be using the digiclone, and I might actually farm for one that is, because I kind of prefer that for whatever reason, even though a lot of people say it's worse. It's kind of up to you what you do. That does kind of go well with having the on action skill end elements on your shield and grenade, which I tend to always go for. So it's really, again, kind of up to you. Well, basically, for instance, I have the Firestone White Elephant, and again, there might be some other things that are better for this. I'm still kind of trying to figure it out, but it adds 80% bonus damage to melee, which obviously the Face Puncher benefits from melee. It also gives a 30% chance to attach a Sticky Bomb, which I've noticed they don't really do too much damage, but it actually is at least kind of nice to have that damage on. Take that, and we're going to take the Seeing Dead, which is obviously good, which has some bonus melee damage on it already. Take this, which has 100% cryo with Sentinel, obviously. This is the Mayhem modifiers that I've been using. I use these all the time. They're not necessarily the best ones. Honestly, the worst one to me is Totally Radical. It basically makes radiation guns useless, which is really annoying. But it took me a while to get this role that I liked. I really like having Buddy System. It's one of the easier ones in my opinion. I also don't mind Chain Gain at all. You just kind of jump over everything and stay away. But that's just my opinion. I'm going to be chopping all this up and posting it. So no one's watching right now, but you know. Alrighty.